Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is chapter 68 of Really Fake, and this one is titled An Interrupted Dinner Date. You and your man ordered something as well, then drinks, and Pa got his wine, and then you all thanked the waitress and got back to talking. Mrs. Happy, this is my boyfriend, Kuroo Tetsuro, you said shyly to the carer, and she looked at you, and then to him, and then to you again. He has strong arm, good, she stated, and you grinned. You have strong arms, Kuroo, you said to him. You have been accepted into the fold. An honour, he replied, giving Mrs. Happy a small smile across the table. Oh! A loud, haughty voice sounded from your right, and you looked over to see who it was. It was Ms Marple. Your face darkened. Ah! Pa warbled, struggling to get out of his chair to face her. Miss Marple, a long time since we've spoken. Yes, because you ignored all of my calls and never responded back, she snapped. You are the worst of the worst. How dare you treat me like that? I can explain, Pa placated with his hands up. He does not need to explain anything to you, Mrs. Happy suddenly interjected, and you grabbed for Kuroo's forearm under the table, watching the drama unfold before your eyes. And who do you think you are? Miss Marple asked haughtily, down the end of her nose at the shorter Mrs. Happy. You are not even worth the explanation, Mrs. Happy replied with such vehemence in her voice that it made your hair stand on end. Miss Marple spluttered in response to Mrs. Happy's very pointed reply, not knowing what to say. I think it's best that you leave now, Pa said to the overly make-up laced biddy. We're no longer an acquaintance. Get wrecked, you cheered internally, still clutching Kuroo's arm and holding your breath. Miss Marple jammed her bright red thin lips together and gave Mrs. Happy one very strong up-down look, and then turned and stalked away, and your Russian saviour shuddered. She put the curse on me, she muttered to herself, while she removed her outer coat and then put it back on, starting with her non-dominant hand, and slipped it into the sleeve and pulled it back on. There, that is better, she said, sitting back down again. I'm sorry you had to see that, Pa said sheepishly as he sat down again as well. It's okay, Pa. I didn't know she was going to be here, or I would have suggested somewhere else. Oh, not to worry, Pa replied with a smile. As long as everyone's okay now. He looked over at Mrs. Happy and she nodded. I cured the evil eye. I'm going to be in good health once more. You grinned. Nothing worse than a curse from a plastic oh, crap, can't say the rest. I was about to say plastic sex doll. You screamed internally. The worst kind of curse, Mrs. Happy replied seriously, and you chuckled, which made Pa grin that you and her were getting along. From that point on, everyone relaxed and conversation flowed easier. The food arrived moments after the confrontation with Ms. Marple, and everyone dug in, almost forgetting about her intrusion. After dinner, you all sat back holding your stomachs. Did anybody want dessert? You asked. I can always go for dessert, Kuroo said to you, giving you a wink. Stop it, you hissed, poking him in the side. I have a separate stomach for dessert, Pa announced. What do you feel like then, Pa? You asked. Ice cream, he said with a childlike sparkle in his eye. You grinned. Well, I'm sure we could get you some ice cream, hey Tit? You asked your boyfriend. Of course, he replied with a smile at Pa as he rested back against the back of the chair and rested an arm behind you. There's an ice cream parlour down the road from here. Tell you what, Pa, you and Mrs. Happy stay here and Tit and I will go down and get you some ice cream and then come back. That would be marvellous. I'd love to play around a bingo with my sweetheart, Pa said, giving Mrs. Happy a loving look. What do you say, Anna? She looked away shyly, secretly loving that he had called her by her first name. It is fine, she mumbled. Would you like some ice cream too, Mrs. Happy? You asked her. She can share my boysenberry swirl with me, Pa said, grinning at her. But don't eat too much of it, it's my favourite. I prefer cabbages, she said as she stood up. No one in their right mind would make cabbage ice cream. Sorry, Mrs. Happy, you thought, holding back the grimace from showing on your face. Now you're talking, Pa said enthusiastically as he struggled to stand up. You hummed. We'll just stick with the boysenberry for now. If anyone ever does make cabbage-flavoured ice cream, I'll let you know. You and Kuroo stood up as well. Now, Pa said, linking his arm with Mrs. Happy's, let's go win some bingo. You took Kuroo's arm and smiled up at him as you peeled off from the other couple and headed for the door while they took their ramp down to where the bingo area was. Give me a minute, Kuroo said to you as he headed towards the front desk. I need to do something first. You stopped with him as he discreetly paid for the meal that you all had, and then you headed outside. You seriously don't have to pay for our food. I feel bad. Every time you've been with us, you've paid for something, you said, holding onto his arm as you strolled down the street together. Your pa's a good man, and I respect him, Kuroo said plainly. It's the least I can do. You're so much kinder and more genuine than you seem, you mused aloud with a smirk. Well, what's that meant to mean, short stack? Kuroo replied with his smirk. Maybe I should be a bit meaner. No, I'm just saying that I can start by being meaner in bed, he said, making your heart jump into the air and do a backflip. Tit! Warnings, please, you wailed, shaking his arm as your face clearly showed your embarrassment. Kuroo Hyena laughed, doubling over as he enjoyed your response, and you smacked him repeatedly on the shoulder. Why am I even still with you? You joked. That's it, I'm leaving. You let go of his arm and marched ahead, but you didn't get very far because suddenly his arms were around you from behind and he scooped you off the ground and kissed you on the back of your neck. You're not getting away from me that easily, he whispered into your ear, making your body flush with goosebumps. No, you pouted playfully. Not buying it. You can't just have me like that. As Kuroo continued to walk behind you, hunched over and cuddling into you, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone and then opened it to camera and reached out in front of you to take a selfie of the two of you. You didn't have much warning, so smiled at the last minute, and he took the picture just as you went under a street lamp, throwing just enough light to illuminate you both. There, he said proudly. Now we're an official couple, and you can't get away. That's not how it works, you snorted. Oh, isn't it? He replied snidely. And that's what you did to me, wasn't it? He had caught you. You couldn't deny that one. Okay, fine. You playfully rolled your eyes. I guess we have to be together forever now, huh? That's the plan, he said, letting you go and grabbing your hand to walk beside you again. You grinned up at him, and he leaned down to kiss your lips quickly as you almost made it to the ice cream store ahead. Once inside the parlour, you picked out an ice cream flavour for yourself. Kuroo picked out one for himself, and then you got a very large serving of the boysenberry swirl for Pa and Mrs. Happy, and headed back to the restaurant with your individual tubs in takeaway bags. So, Kuroo said, holding your hand once again, do you feel like a real couple now? I guess, you replied, not really having thought much more about it since the last time you'd pondered the notion. I mean, we've pretty much done everything, haven't we? We've been through a lot together, in a relatively short space of time, he added. There was silence as you walked under the same lamppost that you'd taken the photo at on the way to the ice cream shop, and you smiled to yourself. Hold on, Kuroo said. Give me your phone. I'll send you the picture of us that I just took. You fished into your pocket to get your phone and took it out and handed it to him once you unlocked it. Kuroo airdropped the picture across to your phone and you smiled when you saw it. Can you set that picture as my home screen? I want to be able to see it every time I pick up my phone. You grinned at him. Kuroo did so for you, and then he also set it as his own home screen as well. You thanked him and took your phone back, smiling down at the first picture that you two had ever taken together. Yeah, Kuroo said loudly with a very cheeky inflection in his voice. Look at that picture. You can totally tell we're fake dating. I mean, those smiles are so forced. You hummed with a smirk. Totally, it's really fake. I mean, look how unhappy we look. The picture clearly showed that you two were both smiling with genuine delight, and Kuroo looked at you from the side of his eye, and then let out an amused huff from his nostrils as he leaned down and kissed the side of your head. Really fake indeed, he whispered as he straightened and squeezed your hand in his, beyond happy to have met you and to now have you by his side forever. And there it is, guys. That is the end of Really Fake. No, it's okay. Don't cry. Hang on. Just wait a second. There is an epilogue coming tomorrow, but this is the end of the book. This next epilogue part's just a little bit of a fast forward. Hopefully you enjoy the contents of this little bit. The next little bit for tomorrow, sorry. But yes, that's the end of Really Fake. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow for the epilogue.